Welcome, everyone, to our Salon number 74, The Power of Play and Collaboration, with Meera, Patel, and Juliette, Liebi, in the Maternal Gift Economy Breaking Through series hosted by Genevieve Vaughn and the Feminists for a Gift Economy. We are very glad you've taken some time out today on your Saturday to join us. I'm Letecia Layson, your moderator. But right now, I'm going to introduce Meera, Patel, and Juliette, Liebi. We are so glad to have you back. This is our second salon with these two remarkable women. Today, they're calling in from Spain. They have worked together for the past 10 years on various projects and initiatives that aim to embody the practicalities of the gift economy. They are co-founders and trustees of charity Rock, Stone, and Pebble, founded in 2018, which aims to support children in accessing their fundamental right to play and raise awareness on the importance of play in children's lives and the wider society. Rock, Stone, and Pebbles, RSP, is a small charity run on a full voluntary basis by Meera and Juliette. They are both accountants who work as professionals in large charities like British Red Cross, Comic Relief, Action Aid, to name a few, on short-term contracts as senior operations and finance consultants. In addition to this, they are life partners and carry out other initiatives that aim to build collaborative communities and friendships, spend time restoring their land in Spain, and are committed to their journey in finding ways to live by and share the value of the gift economy in practical ways. Let's just welcome them. Thank you so much, Meera and Juliette. Look, I'm turning the mic over to you two.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction, Letecia. We have a presentation that we're just in the process of opening right now. Share the sound. All right, so can everyone see the power of play and collaboration slide?
Yes.
Okay, so we're very honored to be here for a second time, as you said. Some of you would know us from the last time when we presented the gift of play. In May 2023 it was. We're still very much infused with the joy and intensity of India. We just got back from that project 3 weeks ago, which we'll be sharing with you today, and also another very different project we're running in South Africa. So it will be fun. You'll see play in action, amazing art, children's voices, and all sorts of wonderful things to share on the power of play and collaboration. Today, we're going to speak on behalf of Rock, Stone, and Pebbles, as Letecia said, a charity that we co-founded in 2018, which means we're almost 7 years old now. We're a small grassroots organization that's run on a fully voluntary basis. Yet through the power of collaboration, we've been able to work globally with different partners in countries like India, South Africa, Zambia, Uganda, and the UK. We raise funds through public channels and try to find collaborative ways to carry out diverse programs to support children in vulnerable communities, build brighter futures through the power of play. We are very excited to talk about the power of play and collaboration through the lens of 2 diverse projects that we're carrying out with Rock, Stone, and Pebbles. We were originally going to share with you why play and what we mean by collaboration, but feel now that these 2 projects embody both and speak for themselves on the power of play. So you can also see the write-up on why play, the benefits of play in our annual report, which we'll share after the session. So we're going to jump right into it, and I'm going to hand it over to Meera.
Hi, everyone. We're really excited to be here today and talk to you about the power of play and collaboration. And as Juliette said, We're going to jump in. I'm going to start with India, and then the second half will focus on the South Africa project. To give you a brief background, this project is really close to my heart for many reasons. And one of them being that about 10 years ago, my aunt and my dad carried out a project in that community. They went into the community of Rachada, very socioeconomically depressed community, and they worked in 7 schools within there, building up toilets and doing some other reparations. And actually, one of the reasons that we decided to work in the same community was because of this, and the fact that we had an established local network in place who would be able to help us. So in January 2023, 2 years ago, Juliette and I went to Gujarat and implemented our first pilot project in the same community. And we spoke a lot about this project at the last Salon we presented at in May 2023, when we were kindly invited to speak then. And you can hear more about it through there if you're interested in knowing about it. That was basically phase 1. But today we want to speak to you about the second project that we recently implemented in the community. So in the first project, we worked mainly with one school, and that involved about 100 children mainly. Although we did get engaged with other schools as well and carried out activities with other children, mostly we worked with 100 children in one school. This time we worked with 4 schools, and that involved 800 5 to 13-year-olds. So there we were, me and Juliette, surrounded by literally hundreds of children nearly every day for 7 weeks. It was honestly one of the best experiences of our lives, and I still can't believe how much we managed to do in that time. So we don't have a lot of time to speak to you in detail about everything that we did. I'll share some of what that included. We built a permanent interactive play structure at one of the schools, and we'll be showing you a video on that in a moment. We carried out many play days, mostly within the school compounds, but we also held 2 external events. And one of them involved taking 400 children to Science City on New Year's Eve. Science City is an indoor and outdoor entertainment and education center. It's a really large space based in the city of Ahmedabad. We'd done this in the first project as well. So
Also 400.
Yeah, 400 kids in the first project were taken to Science City. And there was 14 of us adults and 400 children, very excited children who had a wonderful end of the year 2024. Then on the day after Christmas Day, it was Boxing Day, we had a picnic and play day with about 200 children. And these were the younger children that weren't able to join the Science City trip. So play days at school, at the different schools, involved many activities, like painting murals and transforming large spaces with the children, many art and creative sessions, as well as playing games, dancing, singing, and so on. And at the end of the project, we also made gift bags for all the children, filled with an art book, compass set, color pencils, crayons, felt tips, a small paint set.
A ball.
Yeah, a little ball. And they all loved it. We also gave gifts of toys, play equipment, and paint materials to many of the teachers to facilitate more play with the children. Toys we had brought from England and shared and distributed there at the project. What was really value adding was the numerous sessions we had and the meetings we had with many of the teachers across the schools. They were very interested to hear about the right to play and delving into the benefits of play and also the negative impacts of play deprivation on children. And then seeing the pride and joy and delight amongst the parents, children, and teachers at the community engagement event we organized at one of the schools was just amazing. Actually, so much happened, but as I said, we've got very limited time today, so I'll leave you with this for now and ask you to sit back and enjoy the next part. We're going to show you some very short videos of some of what we did through this project. Well, that was the friendship tree, and every child in that school has their handprint on there. I hope you felt some of the joy and energy of that space. The transformation is really hard to describe, but we'll show you some of that a bit later on too, how the space looked before and after. Now move on to the next video, and these are some more murals we did with the children. And this is the last video for now, and it's of that interactive play structure that I mentioned earlier. It was very kindly designed by one of our volunteers with a background in architectural design, and this video will show how it came to life and how the children used it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, even though I've seen it so many times before. And actually, it made me a little emotional considering we've just come back. I'm sorry, I think
I'm there, I think.
it might have stopped sharing. So sorry, just give me a minute. Okay. I hope we're back on.
Okay, so are we back on the PowerPoint now?
We can't hear anybody
Yes.
saying anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
Perfect.
Wonderful. So you always think you know how children are going to play on a play structure, but it's nothing like we imagined, right? To put a slide up and they'll be like, I'll go on my stomach backwards instead of, proper way, as they say. So now to share the collaboration in action, the hundreds of gifts given and received, without which this project could not have been realized. I'll start with Indira. She's Meera's aunt. So sorry, this thing's not jumping. She's based in Ahmedabad, which is about 30 to 40 minutes from the schools, depending on the traffic and what's in the road. At 83 years old, she still remains central to the project. She welcomed us in her home for 2 whole months. And I just want to put in perspective a little bit what that means. So as Meera mentioned, we gave gift bags to 800 children, but all the supplies pre-packing and during packing happened in her living room. So you can see the video there of what it looks like, us packing all the bags. And it's incredible. Look at her, she's still smiling. And so with the stock scattered all over. And you can see the picture on the left. She also helped us with designing the bags. So we wrote the names of all the kids in English writing so they could color it in. And then for the little ones, we did little flowers and butterflies so they could color those in. And there's Indira hard at work drawing. What did she do? The flowers, right? And yeah, so I'm just trying to forward this slide. And here she is at the play day that Meera mentioned with the 200 children. Each of them got them, we put within the bags a little ball. So she was writing their names in Gujarati for the younger ones. And she attended the events, a number of events. She spoke about the right to play. She spoke about the project. And she's just a champion, really. She also took it upon herself to raise funds for this project and raised almost £1,000 from 15 different people in India. And we were also gifted by volunteers. Shivani joined us. She comes from Mumbai. I don't have an image on here. She'd prefer I don't put an image. And she was also with us on the previous project. She brings with her a vast experience of working with children in vulnerable communities. And wow, can that woman play? I tell you, her energy, all sorts of dynamic and exciting games with the children and me. And she also took it upon herself to fundraise for the project and raised about £300. And then we have Sam, who we can see over there. He's actually Indira's son, and he was over from the States during that period. So we were very gifted with him coming and joining us and volunteering on some of the days. He has a very special way with children. And really, we're gifted with both of them. They have a very deep respect for children and believe in children's having their own agency and treat them as such. So I just want to show you Sam in action, a very small clip. He always seemed to manage to make them laugh, well, and us as well. So we're demonstrating a game here. So that was our little test. And after that, I think there was about 40 or 50 of us in a massive circle with a bunch of hula hoops doing that game. And then we also very happy to say that our suppliers were the same as the previous project. And we're continuing our relationship with them. The intention is to build long-term relationships and support livelihoods within the community. The builder, Raghubai, who built the play structure, and Indira has actually known him since a boy, and she introduced us to him, as well as the very sweet brothers, Mohan and Manesh, who really enjoyed painting, especially the play structure. And the young Paris, who, thanks to him, we have this media right now and we could get around. And the Manoj Bhai, who is based in Ahmedabad, and we got a lot of our play equipment and stationery from. The food, obviously very important at these events that we held, was provided by a local family who also have a catering service. Oh, sorry. And then finally, the teachers. We spent many an hour together, meeting regularly, playing together, exploring the power of play and how to take play forward together. They humbled us in many ways, their commitment, working in really tough environments, and just incredible resilience. I have so many flashes of memories of them. I mean, look at them. When you look at them, who would have thought that moments earlier, one of them would be running across this massive field with loads of kids chasing them. And another one we had this game where you put the ball between your knees and you have to bounce for ages and then put it in a bucket. That was brilliant. And at the end of the Science City Day, I was finished, you know, and I remember saying to one of the teachers, oh, okay, we're going to go home and rest. And one of them was like, no, I'm on my way to a wedding. And the other one was like, no, it's New Year's Eve. I'm going to Central Ahmedabad and looking at the fireworks. And I was like, really puts perspective, you know, levels of resilience and energy. So you can imagine the energy, the joy and the vibrancy, both with us adults and the children we serve. And you can imagine how much we bonded and fostered creativity together as we played. We played a number of games together, with or without the equipment we brought to the schools. We brought balls, skipping ropes, hula hoops, to name a few things. And it really is amazing how much you bond through play, no? And the excitement of play. And you learn in the excitement, you know? So when we're busy playing together, children will speak to me in English and without even thinking about it. So Meera will say to a child when we're doing the handprints, for example, go tell Juliette what color you want. And they'll run up and tell me in English without even thinking. We also had little teams, because obviously there are quite a few children. So the teams were split into shapes. We had circle, triangle, square. And I don't know, for some reason, they loved the word pentagon. So it was pentagon, pentagon all the time. So they know that shape very well and the English word for it. And not bad considering they're 9-year-olds. And pronunciation is really key as well. You know, so we would arrive at a place and high five everybody. And then the wording would have to come up. High five. Actually, should we do an example? Okay. So
High five, to the side, other side, down below, too slow.
Yeah, so that's it. And yeah, it was amazing. I'm just trying to click through the thing. It's not letting me move.
Ah, there we are.
Okay, so the space itself, teachers and local government officials were amazed at the transformation of the space, repeatedly telling people the children did it, you know. And it's especially important as the children had never touched the paintbrush before. And if you put it in context, considering that the annual budget for managing a school is between £250 to £700 a year for the bigger school. And paint is not cheap, so you really have to consider, am I going to put paint in the hands of the kids, and what are they going to do? So just to show you how the space transformed, this is the area, it's an enclosed area, and we're walking towards what is the standard 1 classroom. And this is what it looks like afterwards. So we painted this chicks and houses. Actually, not we did. The 5 to 7-year-olds painted there, transformed that space with that mural. This is the other side of that area where the the kindergarten class.
Kindergarten, yeah.
And yeah, there's again the kindergarten, and when you walk out the gate, there's the play structure. So it transforms the space really well.
And it was really interesting because they actually drew it and they painted it. They then did the outlines around it. We'd had these little, what do you call them? Stencils of shapes. And they practiced them on their art books first and then drawn them on. So it was all very exciting for them and for us.
Yeah. And there was pentagons in there as well, by the way. They would be happy to know. So this is another section of the school, the back section. And in the video, you can see as it turns around, there's a platform there. And it's really touching to think that 10 years before that, Meera's dad, with Indira on the team, built that platform because they had noticed that there was nowhere to sit, right? So there's monsoons then, and the kids were sitting and eating on the floor at the time. So Meera's dad got that platform going. I'm just going to play the video. On the top left, you can see the after, and on the bottom right, before. And it beautifully ends with the tree of friendship. Like I said, we worked with 800 children across 4 schools and with over 20 teachers who directly saw the impact play had on the children. The resounding feedback from them was that whilst they knew the children who excelled in class, this project showed them how other children who didn't excel in the classroom had other unique talents.
So that was a small glimpse of what we did in India. And one of the wonderful things was that as we were there, we agreed on a framework and structure for the continuation of this play program amongst these cluster of schools. And there are 12 schools within this cluster in the Rachada community. When my dad and my aunt carried out the work, they worked in 7 of those schools. Since then, RSP has worked in 5 of the schools, and we've met a number of the other ones as well. So in collaboration, the idea is in collaboration with local play champions like the principals and teachers, we continue building more spaces and opportunities for children to play and raising awareness on the importance of play. The longer-term vision is to create collaborative play projects across the cluster of 12 schools, strengthen the ties that are already between them, and build stronger communities and brighter futures together. So we hope that that's where this project will be moving. And an important story for us was at the close of the meeting with the principals. One of them was so impressed with the murals done by the children at the other school, he reached out and asked the principal of that school to support their school with the mural activity with the kids. And that was seeing something really positive coming out of the project. So I guess the question is, when will Juliette and I go back? Juliette?
Pressure then. Well, according to one of the children who said, and I quote, You must come back in 2 years' time, because then I will be old enough to go to Science City with you. So we'll leave it at that. And that was India. So now we need to shake it out and completely change our mindset, because we're going across the world. And for the Monty Python fans out there, and now for something completely different, our Right to Play program in South Africa. Before we present the extraordinary art through these powerful panels that were co-created by children with artists in South Africa, which express the children's frustrations, hopes, and experiences of play, I'd just like to share some background on our partnership with charity Mad About Art and this collaborative program we carried out with them. Mad About Art operate from their center, which is based in a township near a town called Layson in the south, which has been a safe haven for thousands of children for the last 20 years. They've been using art as a platform for igniting hope and imagination through various ways. You can see more about them on their website if you're interested. They work with vulnerable children and those affected by HIV/AIDS. Our connection with MAD started way back in the day. I first came across them 20 years ago now, when they displayed their Rainbow of Hope panels in Trafalgar Square in London, which aimed to break the stigma of having HIV/AIDS. And we've had a partnership with them since we started Rockstone and Pebbles 7 years ago. In fact, a little bit before then. And in 2021, we started a collaborative play project rooted in very humble beginnings, a simple idea of raising awareness. We approached them and said, you want to do a Right to Play project, maybe make a mural painting. And what transpired from this little grain of an idea was more than any of us at RSP or MAD had ever expected or imagined. And this is the real power of collaboration. We share continuously sharing knowledge, resources, expertise, and experience in a non-competitive way towards a commonly defined goal. So the panels you'll see today are a result of a 2-year collaborative project. 85 children aged between 2 and 17 years old participated in the project. Over 32 workshops, the children explored play in various ways, like you can see the imagery here: dancing, theater, debating, icebreakers, role play, sharing their knowledge and experiences, exploring their right to play, and various art techniques and methods and materials like self-portraits, wildlife painting, how to use symbolism in art, using many different mediums, from water paints to charcoal, from mural painting to large panel drawings. So it was very intensive. A very powerful medium they use as well is storybooking. This is one extract from one of the storybooks, and it is a story of the child's experience of play and excluding somebody who was gay and they didn't want to play with them. It's very strong, it's very moving actually, and the person didn't want to play with them, and they ultimately ended their life. And it's an example of the reality of the situation that these children live and grow up in. There's some dark depictions within the panels. It is an expression of their experience, and that comes from the stories that they shared. But first, we're going to... Sorry, Meera. I jumped.
No, that's all right. Before we jump into the panels that we've been raving about, let's hear from the children themselves. These were the children, some of the children that were involved in the project.
some volume.
When I play, I feel happy. When I play, I feel excited. And I don't even think about wrong things and negative things.
When I play, I feel happy. No stress, just fine.
When I play, I feel happy and excited.
When I play, I feel free and energized.
When I play, I feel happy and my mind just go clear. Even when something is wrong at my home, I don't feel like when I'm playing with other kids, I don't feel so bad because my mind is going out and my mind is good.
When I don't play, I feel sad. I feel there's something that is not in my body, I will be angry.
When I don't play, it's like I'm getting crazy. I'm just getting crazy.
When I don't play, I feel lonely and sad because maybe I'm in the house alone watching TV because sometimes TV is boring and there's no one to play, so I feel lonely and sad.
When I don't play, I feel so bad because I can't concentrate on my school things, always cleaning at home, always do something, but I just want to play because when you're playing, you can understand everything, even when you play some kids playing school things and you concentrate straight at school so that you can pass.
It's important to play because you take all the negative thoughts and the angriness that you have to your parents, you take it off.
It's important to play because you are a child. You need to play before you are grown up.
It's important to play because sometimes you just need some time alone to just keep your head clean.
It's important to play because you sometimes feel happy and you feel happy with your friends and you need to be energized. You need energy for yourself.
So it's always wonderful to hear from the children directly and really puts things in more perspective, I guess, better context. So as we said, it was through all these diverse forms of exploration that the panels were born and painted by the artist, assimilating the children's lived experiences of play, which were gathered through these participatory workshops, and the artist assimilated their art, imagery, their stories into the panels. The artist remains unnamed because they prefer no recognition of this art. They believe that it belongs to the children and it represents their voices and their stories. So we're going to start by giving you a very brief overview of the panels and then dive straight into them. These panels depict the experiences and views of children and young people at Mad About Art, from their barriers to play to their understanding of the right to play and their experiences of the value and joy of play. They end with a call to action from these youngsters to their parents and their community to support them to access their right to play. So the first three panels focus on the barriers to play. And the next three panels get much lighter as they explore the value and joy of play and the right to play. They start with the right to play. A lot of time was spent with the children on the concept of rights and the right to play, and this was the most complex part of the project, actually. Understanding what rights are and understanding the rights themselves made a huge difference to the children. It was almost like a light bulb moment in the project. And the series then ends with a call to action, capturing the children's demands to their parents and communities. So prepare to go on a journey now as we take you through these incredible panels and the story behind them. I'll pass it to Juliette to kick off with the first few panels.
I'm going to start with this powerful panel, the first of the barriers to play. It's a moody piece with the 4 main barriers represented as dark characters looming over the lives of the children. Music plays a key part at the MAD Center, and the children really wanted music to feature in the panel story, which they do. Here the musical notes are low tempo, like a cage keeping the people inside. We are showing the panel in the sequence, in the order that the children wanted them presented. You can see the genders depicted here in green and red separately. We zoom into the top. Tradition and culture is represented as the glue that is sticking the kids into their traditional roles, like gender roles. The spaces between boys and girls are separated and difficult to cross. There's some examples of the art and storybook extracts. Over here, you can see that macho man image, the weightlifting with the ladies admiring on the side. One of those images on the top of the boogeyman with the hat and the coat. It's a charcoal drawing that one of the children did. And then on the side, you can see the girls playing jump rope and one of them in the house, unable to play. She's not allowed out. Moving to the left of the panel, that's stranger danger, that scary thought that parents put in your head, don't go outside, you'll get kidnapped, the boogeyman will get you. Whilst they do live in a close community, there are obviously safety issues. And as we'll see in the call to action, the children do demand their playground is reopened and a safe space for them to play. Moving on to school. Some of you might be my age and remember Pink Floyd's The Wall, with the children on the conveyor belts, all in all, you're just another brick in the wall. And you can see the confusion trying to reach heights that don't lead anywhere. And in the middle, what should be a playground is a space of conflict and tension. And finally, the parents. In this context, children felt a lot of pressure to look after the home with childcare responsibilities, cleaning, and you can see the frustration on the faces of the main 2 children there. As you can see, it's a detailed piece, and I encourage you all to look at the panels, and well, in fact, all of them, which you can find in our last annual report, which we'll share. I'm now going to move on to another one called The Lost Years of Play. It's a very hard panel, and the image is grotesque. Well, it's grotesque for our sensibilities, but the reality of what the children went through was more horrific. These workshops started in 2022, just when the COVID restrictions were lifted in South Africa, with the experience still very fresh in their minds. The image has a sadness to it, and as the facilitator said, and I quote, there was a collective sadness and universal pain amongst the children. You can see the overall virus itself in this image, the virus piercing needles, children being pricked, the impact going through their body. You can see time being warped there. And as in most of the world, many people lost their jobs, and their food program expanded during COVID to help these families. And in this image, you can see BT here represented, who is the facilitator of this panel program and runs the center. And she's in charge of the community kitchen she expanded. Here the children are in the long line and the music is in the background with low and sparse tempo. The children are stuck in cages over the 2 years. And the title is inspired because the children referred to this period of theirs as the years we lost. So these children are familiar with the concept of a virus. MAD created an animated character called Vinny the Virus many, many years ago to educate on HIV/AIDS. So when it came to visualizing the COVID virus, the children were already familiar with that concept. And you can see them here drawing out the virus, trying to, working on the panel representative of that. On the bottom, you can see how they're drawing out the 2 meters between them. And within the, I mentioned the storybooks earlier, and you can see this extract of one of them. The child is playing on a hopscotch alone. You can see the others with masks on. They're witnessing an emergency around them. And here, body appears to be lying down, but in a coffin, which represented in the panel as well. So I'm just going to give you one moment to absorb, and then I'll pass it over to Meera to go through the next couple of panels.
The first 2 panels that Juliette went through depicted these tangible barriers to play that were picked up and spoken about by the children. And the last of the dark panels, this one depicts the big intangible barrier to play, discrimination. This panel looks like a world in chaos to me. In the middle of the top section, you'll see a small playground, but it's surrounded by these whispering figures. And the rest of the panel is also quite disturbing, unfriendly, and divided through the discrimination pervading the space. Mad About Art spoke a lot about discrimination in that context. And I'm going to share what the team at Mad About Art had to say through some sound clips. You'll hear from 2 trustees of the Mad About Art team first, and then from B.T. Jonas, the head facilitator of this project in country in South Africa, who Juliette pointed out was also depicted in the previous panel.
So, you know, it's kind of this continual trickle of the whispering in the ear, whether it's either through the phone or whether it's through the church or whether it's through whatever it is. You know, they're just constantly putting ideas across.
They are polluting their ideas into the minds of the children. So the children start off, you know, without the divisions.
When we actually started with the project and doing this panel, it was more of they negotiated and they started then to talk with each other, seeing each other's differences by themselves actually made them actually do the project and continue with the project, I think.
And that was B.T. Jonas at the end. I'm going to zoom into some details on this panel now. You can see it depicts the various divisions imposed upon the children by the adults and the society they're living in. The wall dividing the genders, then on the top right and left, divisions arising from differences in color, race, or socioeconomic differences. And as we move down, you can see these divisions depicted arising from differences in sexual orientation, ability, religion, body size. And essentially this whirlwind of divisions creating chaos and destruction, stopping the children from play and creating a future society embedded in discrimination. So this is the last of the dark panels, the last of the series which covered the barriers to play. I'm going to move on now to the lighter sections and the lighter panels. We'll start with the 4th panel, where there's more light is coming in, the right to play panel, and you see all this unlocking of the barriers starting to happen. Genders are no longer divided by red and green, as in the previous panels. As we said earlier, learning about rights and understanding the concept of right to play was a large part of the workshops with the children. And I'm going to play a sound clip again so you can hear more about this directly from the project team at Mad About Art.
there's a big part of this panel which is about research. It's about the kids finding out stuff. The kids were reading stuff about it. They were trying to write stuff. They were drawing things. They were being creative. They're trying to listen to each other. They're trying to come up with ideas, searching for ways in which they could unravel this thing that was swirling around their heads. They're attempting to try and understand what rights are and try and find ways to unlock it.
This was also the exercise where they did actually of negotiation at schools, how to negotiate for their rights themselves, from teacher, from a parent, and also from any other adult out there, how they can use the concept for themselves. Article 31 shows actually on the top, whereby the kids is more interactive doing the drama, acting out self, but finding play as a useful resource within themselves, something that they want to do now on a daily basis and what they missed out on. And that is what we also demonstrated in this piece here.
So I hope you enjoyed hearing from the team at Madhubat Art. And I will now pass it on to Juliette for the next couple of panels.
I'm so happy I get to present this panel. This joyful panel speaks for itself, really. The whole image conveys a strong sense of lightness and serenity, which is a reflection of how the children felt about play. As you can see, the overall tone of the panel is much lighter. The church bells are going mad. Do you want to close the window? Sorry, it's that time of day. As you can see, the overall tone of the panel is much lighter. We have these fabulous, unique flying brains. And if you look at them in more details, all the brains look different. And it changes for you every day which one is your brain for the day. The second title of this panel, Play Gives My Brain Wings, is actually a direct quote for one of the children and what inspired the whole flying brain theme. You can notice that the music gets lighter, and at this point of the journey too, the notes here don't represent a cage or fenced up anymore. The words are some of those used by the children that describe how they feel about play. I wanted to highlight this, especially because the project facilitated interactions between children from different cultural backgrounds, creating friendships that would not be allowed to flourish because of the discrimination and the different types of divisions that exist. And this is really powerful because the MAD team told us that at the beginning, the children from different backgrounds didn't really integrate with each other. And those are the 1 to 2, maybe a little bit ostracized. So that was the Joy of Play panel. And the next one is the representation of the joy and diversity of play. And it's titled Play, A Path to Wellbeing. Just looking at it in the bright yellow makes you think of that you're going to be on a beach somewhere beautiful at the sunset. And we have all different types of play represented here, from playground to yoga, to music, to arts, nature play, sports. And even Meera and I recognize ourselves now in the tree hugger. There's a tree hugger. And the artist did warn us, though, that this music, although very high tempo and upbeat, is not actually a tune. So don't try and play it, or try and see what comes out. If I zoom in, there's this one specific area where they talking about the garden, and MAD often focuses on, within their programs, on healthy eating and improvements in nutrition. As I said, and during COVID, they expanded the food program, and it's represented here. And again, finally, you can see the boys and girls are not painted in green and red anymore. They're multicolored and diverse.
So I'm going to take you now to the last call to action panel, and I'm aware that we're running a little late. I hope it's okay. We might go 5 minutes over. but I will try not to rush this important part because this is the final panel, the children's call to action. And one of their key asks was for the local government to reopen the playground that was closed during COVID and never reopened. I'll give you a moment to read this panel. And this is a quote from one of the project's facilitators after the children presented these panels to their parents and community members. I'll give you a quick moment to read through this. This call to action is an important piece in making this series a powerful advocacy tool for play. We'd be really interested to see what sort of calls to actions that people around the world would put forward and to whom to bring more play into children's lives. If you have any thoughts on this, please do add them on the chat. We'd love to hear the call to actions. The call outs could be addressed to governments, parents, teachers, society, children, or perhaps even to yourself. And it's very exciting to share that we've started the second phase of this project with Mad About Art now. And the most exciting part is it's going to be a series of child-led projects that will involve children taking these panels out to the wider community to advocate for their own right to play. Juliette will share a little bit more on that now before we come to a close on this presentation.
Please don't feel rushed.
Oh, bless you.
Oh, thank
you.
Yes, please do not feel rushed.
Yes.
Take your time.
Thank you.
Yes.
So first we must pay tribute to BT Jonas, who was the head facilitator and runs the center at MAD. She was the main project facilitator. And you know what? I can't read it. Can you? I'm so sorry. This is an extract from my annual report.
And you can share. You can read it with us. I'll read some part of it out for you because it's quite important. She has been at the heart of this project. We're hugely grateful for the passion and dedication with which she has and continues to carry out project activities and the wealth of experience and expertise she brings with her. BT actually joined MAD as a project participant when she was only 13 years old, 20 years ago. And now here, 20 years later, she's managing the Mad About Arts Centre. Her personal journey is an inspiration, and it's an honor and privilege to have her on the team. So we thank her greatly, and we are looking forward to continuing to work together.
She's a brilliant person, a brilliant speaker. Perhaps one day she can join us on a salon and talk about her experience. So MAD and RSP are taking these panels worldwide, advocating for children's right to play and sharing the voices of the children themselves. The panels were first launched in South Africa in December 2023, with the children presenting them to the local community and their parents. They were also launched in the UK, where we presented them in February 2024 at a conference attended by hundreds of play experts worldwide. We're now in the midst of phase 2 of the program. As Meera said, the project's child-led, which means on a practical level that the children themselves choose how they want to advocate using the panels. They decide where, when, who, why. And our role is to support them in the actualization of this through the development of mini projects. So here are some of the flip charts they presented when they're preparing their various opportunities that they're considering what to do. And you can see here on the side section here, a simple wording of walk to the municipal and bring back the park. A little sentence, but this became the first mini project designed by the children. It was a walk to the mayor's office on the 16 days of activism in December, and they presented their demands on their right to play. It was an extraordinarily powerful event, one which we can spend this whole hour talking about, but we can't. So perhaps the best way is to quote the mayor himself, who I'm just going to extract it from the front page newspaper locally. I've never before experienced children marching, so that seems to suggest that there is a problem of which we as the leadership of this council need to address. He also continued to say, it is important for us to deliver in terms of what the kids require us to do. We spoke to the participants and they said he was visually very moved by it. They now have a dedicated government-appointed liaison and many other impacts that we don't have time to talk about now. In fact, tomorrow the children are doing another mini project and they are presenting the panels to one of the 4 churches that they've pre-selected. So now we continue with our work to make this project sustainable in both countries. We're planning to visit South Africa at the end of the year to continue on this project and explore other opportunities. We are also raising funds to support both of these projects, and if you'd like to donate, by all means, reach out. And that concludes our South Africa. And to wrap it all up, we come back to what our guided principles are on the gift economy, that we accept responsibility and onus of taking the time to understand the needs of the people and communities we work within. We recognize the need for a non-paternalistic, collaborative, and considered and humble approach to create positive change. And we value the cycle of gifting. Although we come in as gift givers, we very quickly become the receivers of the most extraordinary gifts. And finally, play is a portal through which we can mobilize the gift economy and tap into our inherently playful, joyous, giving, and loving natures to challenge the constructs of capitalism and to promote the bottom. Collaboration in favor of competition, mutual respect in favor of exploitation, abundance in favor of scarcity, love in favor of fear, and a gift-based economy in favor of an exchange-based one. Thank you for listening. We don't have a website, but you're welcome to follow us on social media and our YouTube channel.
And thank you for gifting us this opportunity to share this work with you.
Before you stop your presentation, we've had a request. For some of us, the writing was too small to read the call for action. Would you please read that out loud so that we could actually...
Yes, absolutely. I will share that portion again.
What is that?
Okay, so I'm going to read it for you. You adults see it as just play, nothing much of it. Nothing much will come of it, you say. We say it's our right to play. Play makes us happy, our brains glow. If all we do is chores and stuff, our growing up will be so tough. Where we live, there's not much to do. Drugs, alcohol, crime, we say no. Play keeps us busy and helps us grow. To play in safety is all we ask, but with our playground gone, it's quite a task. Roads, dams, and bushes are just not safe. We need safe spaces. We need safe places to keep these risks at bay. Our swings and slide and climbing frame all gone. We feel like no one cares. It's been too long. Bring back our play park, we say.
Thank you so much. That's so beautiful. Makes me want to cry.
I know, right?
It's so powerful. It's so dynamic. And yes, please, we would love to have you come back with your other partner and actually talk about mad about art. We would love that. That
Be
would be
careful, BT makes everyone cry.
BT does make everyone cry.
be so wonderful. Let's see, Jen, did you have anything else you'd like to say before we actually open up to questions? Anything that you'd like to put forward right now? You need to unmute, my friend.
Yeah, I'm one of those crying, and I just really appreciate it so much. I don't know why it's, I mean, I can't just think of the words of why it makes me cry, but it just so touching. It just grabs your heart. I don't know, I mean, this is the way it needs to be.
Yeah. And we presented it at in India as well. And one of the teachers who had been a teacher for like 30 years or something, and she said it's phenomenal to think that this is what is on children's minds.
That's also right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I think you had mentioned something about your, did you say a report that you were going to, your annual report? Would you send that to us so we could have it as a download with this recording, or tell us how you would like to have that distributed for us?
We can do it in whatever is your preferred method. And at the end of the report, it basically tells the whole story of the panels. So you can look at all of them in detail, etc. So we can try and attach it here on the chat, or would it be easier if we email it to you and you download it and put it on your...
Yeah, I think that would be best, because then with the recording, anyone who watched the video would be able to download it also. And that would be great. Yeah. And then you could actually refer people to this presentation and they would also be able to download it. So it's a perfect win-win as a gift. Jen, you had your hand up.
No, I was just wondering if it's possible to get copies of the panels that we could put them on our wall. Do you have that? Is that a possibility?
The panel, we're looking at ways of how to move these panels forward through groups which are value aligned. We want to make sure they're not used, the story is not misinterpreted, the integrity of the story is maintained, and it's used for non-profit purposes. So yes, Jen, for you, the answer would be yes. Do we have those copies printed in that at the moment? No, but it's something we're looking to do, and depending on what sort of interest and what sort of partnerships or collaborations come forth.
Okay, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Now, one just other logistical thing. Many of us on this call may not be social media wise. So could you specifically put a link in where people could find you so they can easily click through either an email or your Instagram handle or something like that? Because that would also be useful for the people in this room.
Okay, perfect. When we send it, the bottom has the links of each of the medias. We're not media savvy either, but it helps to have around.
Wonderful. Okay, I think it's time that we could open up for some questions. Liliana, would you like to start?
I have a question from Patricia White. Mary Long mentioned no cell phones, computers, TV. This has become a huge problem here with children being addicted to their screens. Can you talk a bit about this? Such a relief to not see any technology in your presentation.
Meera?
I think this is a very interesting question you put forward, and we see that a lot. It's extremely interesting when we worked with these schools, and in very highly economically depressed areas, government schools, a lot of the teachers said that when you go to the private schools or the posher schools, the education pushes so hard that those kids in India, within kilometers from each other, don't have time to play with each other. And when they do, they're stuck on the screens. So one of the things that we do when we carry out programs is we define play as any sort of non-passive activity that a child enjoys doing and has fun doing. It is a tragedy what's happening with the telephones and the screen time. And I guess the only way to address it is to provide children with better spaces, opportunities, play with them, you know, which is happening less and less. I hope that answers the question.
Yes.
Thank you. Judith, do you have a question for us?
When you first started your talk on about South Africa, you talked about a lot of the specific techniques that you used, and you said icebreakers, role play, shared knowledge and experience, self-portraits, how to use symbolism and different mediums, murals, different colors, large panels. I wonder if you, but the list of techniques that you used was much longer than that, and I wonder if you could elaborate on that a little bit more, on the some of the specific types of play that you encouraged or that you fostered.
And, you know, I think actually in our previous annual report, we go into a lot more detail. It was very extensive. So if you imagine 32 workshops over a very long period of time, use different ways to explore. So one of the things I would do is, if you think about play, basically just go out and go have a complete free play and come back and just talk about how you feel about that. And MAD is an organization that's been using art techniques for 20 years now. And so they teaching the children how to express through art. They're trying to design the panels at that point. What are they going to relay through?
Okay, thank you for that. Liliana, do you have another question?
How do you select these children, and do they do this program after school, or do they do it on the weekends? When do they do this activities?
So they're two different setups. In India was in a school environment. So we pre-met the principal and we agreed fixed times. So we would go to the school, and between the hours of 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock, one class would be with us and they would have their day. And in South Africa, it's based in a township, which is a center there, and they go there after school. So it's two very unique collaborations, very different environments, and very different structure.
Thank you for that. I noticed that you are true to the maternal gift economy, which is very needs-based. Can you say a little bit about how much time do you put in to the dialogues before you move into a community? Like this second one that you did in South Africa, the conversation, you knew of them for 20 years, but how long did it take you before you actually in conversation? Because the needs, like you say, are very particular. And I want to just say kudos for taking that time, because I think it attributes to the success and the longevity of a project when you understand the true needs. So
MAD is a very interesting history that we have with them because it coincides with our history. When Juliette and I decided to co-found Rockstone and Pebbles, we were by no means play experts or experienced with play activities or children. We basically sat there thinking about what would be the thing that would make the difference that would make the difference. And we came upon play because I think as adults, we get entrenched in a way of thinking, and it's really hard to think outside the box. And we've reached certain limits, as we all know, and where we are in the world. And maybe it's these children who can bring us solutions if we give them the appropriate places, spaces to actually develop their imagination and creativity. So this is why we decided to focus on play. And Mad About Art, Juliette had been helping them do their annual accounts before we set up Rockstone and Pebbles. When we set up Rockstone and Pebbles, we continued to help them with their operational and financial needs. And the collaboration basis was that we were learning about play, about working with children, building a relationship with them. The first 4 years of our journey at Rockstone was really about building foundations, learning, building the funds as well to carry out projects. So we started our second strategy phase last year, which is when we started the India project. 2 years ago, in the year 5. And that's when we started implementing these projects. So partly to answer the question of before as well, that when we went into India, we decided on that area and that community because there was already an established network there that would be able to help us through the project my father and my aunt had carried out. And when we went to India the first time, we purposefully carried out a very small pilot project to learn, to use it more as a learning and a needs assessment, understanding what the community is about, what they would want, always with the intention of continuing it rather than doing a one-off. And similarly with MAD, when we came into that year 5 and a second strategy phase, as Juliette said in the presentation, it started from very humble beginnings. Our proposition was that you have so much experience in art, you've done so much advocacy, and art is one of their biggest areas of strength and how they've helped these children really grow over a long period. So BT's story, she started there when she was 13 as a participant, as one of those children, vulnerable children who was attending this center. And now 20 years later, she's running the center. And they have 20 years of experience with them. So we propose that let's co-create something together. Let's talk about play. Let's talk about the right to play. Now, although they've been doing all of this for 20 years, they'd never quite talked about the right to play or considered play individually and the value and power of play. And BT was actually incredibly amazed by it because initially at the beginning of the project, she had her reservations and she said that there's this culture of thinking play is a waste of time. And she had her reservations. She didn't have a chance to play. But we had a meeting with her 2 days ago and she was saying this is the second year in a row that all the kids in MAD have done really well in their school, their education. The parents are really bought in. They can see the change. They can see the pride coming in. So it evolved. We proposed that why don't we do a mural? Why don't we talk about rights, build this awareness on the right to play and the power and value of play? And they said, okay, that sounds good. So they started off and said, let's talk about rights. And then they got back to us and said, this is a really complex topic. I think we'll need about at least 5-6 workshops on this. And we're like, yes, that makes sense. Project initially was scoped for a 6-month period. But as these workshops developed and went on, so they started talking about play to the children, and the children would come back and say, it was the children who said that, well, we can't talk about play because there's so many things stopping us playing. So then there were these whole workshops around the barriers to play. And that's how it evolved, taking into consideration these needs and respecting those unique talents that you're working within. instead of going in and saying, this is what we'll be doing and this is what should be done.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for that. There is now, it's a long comment that Catherine Black posed in the comment section. I'm just going to extract that because we're talking about play and needs. She's addressing as an adult, non-traditional student in a university, that the lost COVID years, and that she was wondering, how could I get students involved to express their own feelings and play and the pain over isolation and social division? Because I will say, I'm going to add this little tagline. Darsha Navarez, one of our friends here at the Maternal Gift Economy, one of the fundamental elements of a nested, the evolved nest is play. It's number 5. I'll actually put it into the chat in a minute. But the other caveat that Darsha reminds us is that if you didn't get these nested skills in your developmental stages, that as an adult, you can actually learn them. You can actually learn the skill, because that helps us in our own development at all times. So do you have any suggestions for how you might transition this into adults? I mean, most of this could be done by adults, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, even just BT's experiences herself, our own experiences when we engage, I don't think any of us play enough.
Well, yeah, we definitely played a lot in India. I tell you, I didn't realize I had that level of energy. But yes, I think as adults, and also when you're looking at the panels, you can see it from an intellectual level, although it comes from children about their experience. We know what they're saying. We're living it as well, right? And I think it's that joy. When I spoke earlier about working with the teachers, we had so much fun together. It was ridiculous. And then you're bonding through that. You have that love that you see in people's eyes, in the children's and the teachers. It's such a connector as well, and I mean, I'm all for silly games. I love the silly games. Meera's a brilliant artist, but, so I think we can access that very much so. And very beautifully, when we had a meeting with BT once, she said that I needed to stop play quite young. Obviously she grew up in that apartheid era. Things were very different at the time. And she said, and now I'm making up for it. I'm also playing now. So there's hope.
Wonderful.
For it. They are teachers, the kids.
I wonder if you could say a little bit more about your own experience, because you said when you started your project, you didn't know much about play. So how has that changed you? I mean, what has that done for you?
That's a good question.
I mean, that's a hard question, especially for me, because I was never a games person. I'm a cerebral person, so I like my board games or art activities. And Juliette would say, you know what, we can play this game where the kids can put the ball between their legs and jump down a line and put it in a bucket. And I'd kind of look at her and say, but why? Why would that be fun? And then she'd like, just let me do it. I'm going to do it. And I was just quite amazed how much fun the kids had with it. And then we did the hula hoops together. So you start doing a bit of it, especially if you're not naturally kinesthetic. But I think it shifts your mind as well. It's that natural positive energy. You just can't help but feel it. It comes in.
And then on an intellectual level, so, when we started the organization, we spoke a lot about the play and the right to play, focused on the right. And actually, because what happened with COVID, a lot of people understood the negative impact of play deprivation. So that became more obvious then. And so we would attend different play conferences. There are extraordinary amount of people doing extraordinary work worldwide. So when we presented the panels at the play conference, National Play Conference last year, we learned so much. You know, they spoke a lot about risky play, the importance of risk in play, which is really scary, you know, and the importance of play within nature, a lot of advocacy happening. So we are learning from different people, you know, on the psychology behind it.
And the overprescription of ADHD. This was such an interesting talk by a researcher who works in Sweden. And she was talking about sensation seeking. I'd never even heard of it. She said, there's a scale you can test yourself. She said she's tested herself a number of times and she hits high on that sensation seeking scale. But she said, I'm privileged enough that I grew up in Norway. My parents were wealthy enough. I could do adventure sport, ski sports, etc. So I could expend my energy like that. But when you don't give children those spaces, or when they're not resources, then you might go into negative sensation seeking. And she also talked about how a lot of people are now recognizing that this prescription or this saying people have ADHD and prescribing medication for this is an overprescribed drug and something which doesn't feel right at all. That kids have energy, and I think we've got this society happening where we're kind of just slowing them down. You know, every time they have energy, they seem to have a problem, apparently.
Yeah.
Darsha reminds us that in childhood, these activities are actually developing neural pathways. Their engagement, their interaction, their flexibility, everything actually is helping the brain balance itself out as it's growing. So it creates capacity for them. So, but it's so exciting to have your presentation. I'm going to turn the question to see if Liliana has a question, because I have lots of questions, but I think we need to take some from the people who are present. Liliana?
Yeah, I have a question from Maureen Jensen. She asked if do you collaborate with other countries, and she's from Chile, and she is working with children of low-income children. She will be interested in see if you wanted to collaborate, just in terms of ideas of experiences.
Absolutely. We always welcome collaboration, you know, and always bearing in mind that it's a long journey, and especially for all of us doing this sort of work. We're doing it on a voluntary basis. We're doing it with limited resources. So often you want to meet up, you want to meet more and more people. You don't have the resources to do so. But when we take baby steps and we start the journey, we can build relationships. And yes, we'd be interested to hear from anybody who'd be interested to talk about play with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Would you put an email or contact information for them to be able to connect with you, or you're going to make sure at the bottom of the report that they can download, it'll have, oh, okay, perfect. That's perfect. Okay. All right, Judith, do you have a question for us?
In your videos of the children saying, when I play, I feel, and when I don't play, I feel, the children are wearing masks, and I wonder if you could elaborate on that.
Yes, we actually wanted to make sure the children are not recognizable. So we thought of a number of different ways. Could we record the sound? Could we, you know, and we decided on the masks, which I think just looks stunning, and they can speak freely.
I think that's important. There are a lot of people who are concerned about their children being on screen. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so I want to just say thank you for your awareness of that and making sure that they are not, may not have, be recognized. Yeah. I have a question for you. I'm actually speaking Jen's question out loud because Jen says, tell us more about international play conferences, because I think she wants to go and I want to go too.
There's also a little space where you can play, you don't have to listen to the people speaking.
Well, last year we joined a few play conferences online during the COVID period is when we started.
Yeah.
And the first time we went in person was last year at the National Playwork Conference, which happens every year. It's mainly UK focused, but you have people from around the world coming in and they invite other speakers as well. And then there's the International Play Association, and they set out play conferences. I think it's every 2 years, is it?
2 or 3 years. So the next one is next year in New Zealand, if anyone wants to go to New Zealand.
And we will definitely keep sharing any other countries or anyone else we know who's running these. I'm sure there must be some in the States as well.
There is an IPA United States, so they have different, International Play Association has different branches, and I know they have one in the States. So
An
potentially.
International Play Association. That
Yes.
is an organization I would like to join.
They do have wonderful online conferences as well.
Yeah,
where they take you into different examples and they talk a lot about the philosophy of it. The woman who's heading it is a massive play advocate on the right to play. And with the work on IPA, in fact, last year was the first time they had an international recognized day of play.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they spent many years working on to get that, a number of organizations together.
Yeah.
Okay, that's definitely a holiday that I want to take next year.
Yeah.
All right, Liliana, do you have a question for us?
I do. What about the parents? Is it hard to get the permission from the parents because of maybe sometimes there's a risk to play? I played a lot as a child, and of course there was always a scraped knee or something like that. I mean, it wasn't bad at all, but I was just wondering what is the reaction of the parents when the children are being asked to go and play?
I think the parents are really happy about it, because you're looking at, again, very socioeconomically depressed areas. So one of the reasons we wanted to show you some of that before and after, that transformation it's hard to show on the pictures as well. But you can feel that space itself becoming more joyous. And when we had the play structure built, it was really interesting because the principal was saying that the parents would come drop the kids off. And when they had younger kids, they would come earlier so the younger kids would have a bit of a moment to play on the play structure as well. And when we did the final event in India, the parents came with so much pride.
Yeah, amazing.
And I think it's the fact that their kids are being respected and loved, because you don't find this all the time. Also, you have this very rote type of learning.
A lot of pressure, academic pressure.
And a way of speaking to children, which is not always what you call respectful.
Mm-hmm.
The types of cultural boundaries. And in Mad About Art, it's the center itself is based in the middle of that township for 20 years. So they're part of that community.
Yeah.
And it's a safe space. It's good for the parents.
Yeah. And we had one event at one of the schools, and the parents had said that, there is play equipment there, but often the teachers they're under a huge amount of administrative pressure and all sorts of legal pressures. So getting the play equipment out, organizing it, distributing it, putting the swings up is such a hassle, and, is it worth it and all of that.
So they take the swings off and then they lock them up. And then it's a matter of an initiative of the teacher.
Yeah.
And
then there's theft is an issue. So when we built the play structure, we had that in mind, non-attractive things and a permanent structure that can't be taken away. No part of it can be removed, or, there's nothing that you'd want to take from it, really, except play on it, really, which I did.
Let's check in with Judith, and then I'll go to Liliana for a question. So Judith, do you have a question for us?
Since we're talking about the play structures, Jen asks who designed it and how they knew what the children would like.
So this is a really interesting story. So a young volunteer joined us quite recently, which was about a year ago. And she's originally from Orissa. She had also spent time in Gujarat, near Ahmedabad, near that region where we're going to be doing this work. So while we were in the planning stages, which was early last year, she was planning a trip to come into Gujarat. She studied architecture. She doesn't her profession. She doesn't work as an architect, but she has a background in architectural design. So we had this idea, and we asked her if she would go scope the schools and the space and meet some of the key stakeholders, including the construction manager there, Raghubai. So that was wonderful. She'd gone on a big trip to India, and then she went there.
May time.
Yeah.
April, May time, yeah.
And we sat together and talked about what could we do, which is simple, which is not too high risk, which could be interactive, could involve other elements to it. And
so basically, Meera and
it.
I would throw out the most ridiculous ideas, and then she'd have to practicalize it.
Or she'd be like, no,
what
you can't do that.
What are you going to hang that off? You know? So she was the logical.
Like we really wanted a tunnel under the structure, but that would have required a lot more foundational work, etc., which we wouldn't be aware of. And so within budget that we were working within, we designed it up. And the same construction manager who helped us put up, extend the space, create a platform in one of the main school we were working on at the last project, he was involved. So he helped us and he led the work on that.
Yeah, based on her drawings, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Liliana.
The question I see is, what moved you to do this project? What moved you to work with children? And how long have you been doing this?
Come on, Meera, go for it.
Well, I think that it's the same thing that moved Jen to set up this, Letecia to come on all the time, the whole team behind the maternal gift economy, many of the participants here doing that thing, the social changes in their ways. It's the same motivation that to use our power and our talents in a positive way to make a difference, to see how we can make that difference. And then just do it despite anything. I mean, it has taken us to the edge a few times. It is a lot of work and it can be hectic, especially small micro charities, because they're run on a voluntary basis. They're usually just 2 or 3 of you. So you're planning it, governing it, implementing it.
Mm-hmm.
But you just carry on like you lot do. And we get inspired by people like you and hope that we inspire you too. And so we can continue the cycle and expand it.
That's right. 800 children is no joke.
No.
No joke. All right, Judith, you have another question for us?
There's a comment by Marie Long that in her day growing up during the war and post-war, that the kids just went out and played on the streets, and kids don't generally do that anymore. And just to ask you to comment on that.
It's quite interesting because a few years ago we attended a play exhibition, and there was this beautiful representation, a map of area in England, and they spoke about generations of the great-grandfather, then the grandfather, the son, etc., and how many kilometers away was considered safe to play. And I think the great-great-grandfather went to some river that was kilometers away. And when you go down to our generation, the perception...
No, the next generation.
Sorry, the next, it goes less. And in this generation, what is considered safe is a child up to 1 or 2 meters away, you know? So that whole constant...
It's also a parental mindset that stranger danger feeds into it very deeply. But it's also a different type of parenting, maybe, I don't know that.
Also, we're talking about different experiences of children. So in different socioeconomic backgrounds, there would be children who would travel quite far, potentially play in dangerous environments. So that's a different thing to consider as well.
And it's interesting that before this concept of adventure playgrounds came up, I think it was just after the World Wars, the First World War, and people started noting that kids love to play around these sorts of ruins and on the streets and out there just with loose parts, ideally if they could. But I guess the problem now is kids are barely allowed to go down the street. So the parents don't want them to move beyond their eyesight. So it's very difficult then to do much.
Yes. Okay. Liliana, you have a question for us?
No, I don't have a question.
I see Jen's hand is up, and I see a question in the Q&A. So, Jen?
I didn't see it.
I think it's fascinating that you all are accountants and left brain activity, and that you're doing all of this in totally commercial thing, and then you have this wonderful opening of the mind and the heart for the children. Can you comment on this two left brain, right brain aspects of your lives?
Okay, I can do, but then I have to confess a secret, you know. So I'm going to confess a secret and say that we first set up the organization. We said we can manage the governance, the finances, all that really straight stuff. And somebody else can work with the kids. Until we did. And then we realized, oh, actually.
And also the job, actually, I think it's about trying to make that change, whether it's at work or on a voluntary basis, which is why Juliette and I only work in the charity sector. When we pick up the contracts as accountants, it's still in the charity sector. It's still interesting. It is about social change.
Yeah, that's also very moving that you all are so consistent in your values. That's really cool.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. Liliana.
Yeah, I have the question. Sorry, I hadn't seen it. From Susan Petrilli. I am sorry I missed the first part of this wonderful meeting. You may have already covered my question. Violence and bullying is spreading among school children in Italy at an alarming rate. My feeling is children don't play enough at school. Do you think there's a connection between violence among children and lack of play? Do you work with schools in Italy? Is connecting an option? Thank you.
I think there's a definite connection between the two.
And you went into it a lot in that discrimination panel.
Yes. There's a wonderful organization actually in the UK called OPAL, Outdoor Play and Learning, and they spoke a lot about the school system. I don't know how it is in Italy, but in the UK, they're cutting playtime more and more. So what OPAL are trying to do, and one of the founders of OPAL, Michael Follett, he's been in the sector, in the play sector for about 40 years, like relentlessly trying to get this work across and done really well with the OPAL stuff. He's very kind of disillusioned with the schooling system. We are as well. I mean, I aligned and could understand where he was coming from on that. And he's basically saying is that you've got to work around the school's recess periods. and get in there and get some activities happening, go in, talk to the teachers, change that 15, 20 minutes. And he presented some really compelling evidence, as well as some other speakers there was another speaker as well who said that she did some forest walking with children, and these were children who had been diagnosed with ADHD. And she said literally it was
an hour a week.
An hour a week, and you could see the change in the mental health.
Wow.
You know, and I think connecting with established organizations on this level is really worth it. We haven't done work in Italy because we're a micro charity. Raising funds is also extremely challenging. One of the reasons that it becomes easier to work in the global south is that we can make our funds go a lot further. Although we have worked in the UK, and it's not that we're not against any type of collaborations. If it's viable, possible, we do explore all opportunities.
Wonderful. Any last question that you have, Jen?
Well, no, I just wanted to say I think it's wonderful what you're doing. And it's a real gift, and it's really a gift of social change. So that's good for you. Big
Wonderful. Yes.
Thank you.
Liliana has one more question, so let's take that one.
Yeah. What about if it's in different countries with different realities, is that going to make a difference, or is the same because children are the same? Is there any difference between the fact that there will be different countries?
I mean, there'll always be differences, but it is interesting, isn't it, that children have always played, they will always play across all sorts of boundaries or borders. So they have a common language, and you do see it as well. You can see often children interact without language.
And I did in Gujarat without English, but also when we presented the panels at the play conference, a number of the participants said that they can relate in their environment. So although the home environment in South Africa, where you have the pressure of looking after the home, might be different, that parental pressure might be on academic pressure, for example, or another kind of pressure, you know, when they recognize the four main barriers. It might be universal, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Take different forms. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, let me come back to the two of you. Are there any last words that you would like to leave us with before I actually close out this session, which was very uplifting?
I'd like to say a really huge thank you to all of you. It's people like you that are really inspiring. And the space you've created here is just so wonderful. You may not be able to tell, but both Juliette and I are quite nervous presenters. It's one of my worst things. I think she's a better presenter than I am.
You guys were
Try
great.
not to be too stunted, and we were talking about it, that, you know, you provide this safe and warm, welcoming space. So imagine those people who go and present in forums where they're working within this system that we're trying to break down here. Let's be a bit more diverse. Let's give people time. Let's give ourselves time. Let's be kind. So thank you so much. It's inspirations like that that also keep us moving.
Yes, exactly.
You're very, very welcome. And we just love having you with us. And we're serious about having you come back and present with the other organization. Because I think the panels, so moving, and the amount of both listening and engagement that was required to develop the art, that was taken original pieces as a composite to create these beautiful, even difficult, complex storyboards. You know, it's a full story of really the resiliency of children. They need to be able to have the capacity to have adults that they can trust, who listen and engage, and then deliver solutions that they can participate in.
Yes.
You know, that is such a gift, and it gives agency for their voice when they come forward, because you identified the range of children. So the age ranges of the children, which means that they have time to develop, and they have seeded in them the knowledge that they have rights.
Yes. Yes.
A very
Beautifully said.
empowering
Yes.
realization. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. So thank you for that. And Jen?
Yeah, I wanted to say, I've just been listening to some things on YouTube about the doctrine of discovery by Native American people. And they are saying that really what we need is a change in values for our survival. And that's what you all are doing. So, and children are the ones who can receive that gift of the change in values by people who are practicing good values towards them and carry that forward as adults. So I think it's really important work that you're doing.
Thank you, Jen. And I do remember the first time we met many, many years ago, and you spoke about our inherent values. It's not natural to be competitive.
Right.
That's right.
Or
And
to
I
be
think I think Juliette nearly fell in love with you at
Yeah,
that
she
time.
did.
I thought she might leave me for you.
My head was blown. I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been thinking about for years.
I
Now
just
I'm
didn't know how to
listening.
think about it. Yeah.
Well, it's a gift economy. It's the maternal gift economy. It's that unilateral economy that we practice as mothers and learn as people who are mothered, the children who have to be mothered in order to survive. So those are the values that we all have and that get blotted out by our economic system and our patriarchy and so on. So we've been on the wrong track for a long time, and that's why we've gotten into such a mess with the environment, how we've, and during the wars and everything. But we can go back to who we really are as mothered children. And you all are doing this social mothering, which is beautiful.
Wonderful. Well, it's that time. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time together, and I just want to thank Lisa for supporting us behind the scenes, making sure that we stay that our flow is good and our text stays up. Liliana and Judith, I want to thank you for organizing questions and comments. And Jen, I want to thank you personally, because especially this project was inspired by your work and who you are and how you stand in the world. So thank you, and the rest of the International Feminists for the Gift Economy, who continue to move us all forward in this Breaking Through series. Of course, I want to thank Meera and Juliette. Your work is incredibly inspiring, and you deliver your values as an emanation from the inside out. And the way that you describe it, while you feel shy about presenting it, I want to assure you that I've seen lots of salons and supported many and facilitated many speakers, and you two do such a wonderful job.
Yes.
I attribute it to a great teamwork. We can never do these things alone. So thank you so much for demonstrating true sisterhood, unconditional love, and the courage to actually step forward, even through the fear of doing something. So thank you for that. I think this is a time that we're all being called to step forward and stand up. Yes. I want to invite you all to please come back in 2 weeks. We're going to have another wonderful salon for you. Take a look at our website, maternalgifteconomymovement.org. We will soon be putting up details for that, but we're very excited and honored that we could have Meera and Juliette as our very first salon in 2025. It's perfect because it reminds us that we need to play. We must play. Even though we work hard, we must play. Yes, Jen.
I want to thank you, Letecia, for always being such a wonderful facilitator and understanding everything so well and holding everything together. So
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Letecia.
so kind, Jen. This is the gift that we give. Those of us, you can see in the squares here and those who have their cameras off. This platform provides us truly to live the gift economy, that you can actually see us giving our gifts live and in person on this screen with you every 2 weeks. So we want to invite you back to come and be with us again. I also want to entice you. March, International Women's Month, we're going to have dynamic salons. We have Vicki Noble, Sherry Mitchell, and Pat McCabe coming back for the second portion of their salon. If you didn't see it, please go to our website and watch their first presentation. And then we're going to have another organization, Motherful, who are going to be talking about really their development. So you're talking about play, and now we're talking about mothers and what their needs are and how they work together. It's an organization that has about 600 single mothers in Columbus, Ohio, networking, and they're going to be talking about all the things that they're doing to ensure that their children get to have their right to play. So please do come back. Thank you so much, everyone, for spending time with us. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Take really good care. And yeah, don't forget to go out and play this weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.